Fate leads a millionaire farmer to discover a family tied to buying a horse. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside, the distant howl of a lone coyote sent chills crawling down James's spine. Something was undeniably wrong, a buried truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The morning stretched thin and pale above the endless fields as James pulled his truck up the rutted dirt road that led to the seller's farm. He was a man built of cold silence, a wealthy ranch owner used to command, but used rarely to company. Years of solitude had shaped him into stone, but inside, a strange, aching emptiness twisted like a knot he couldn't quite loosen. The announcement of a rare horse for sale had sent ripples through the quiet town, and James felt, strangely, that this horse might be the key to mending something inside him. From the first glance, the horse was unlike anything James had ever seen. Its coat shimmered like liquid. Night, muscles taut and rippling with grace, a creature both wild and hypnotic. Yet as James stepped from the truck, that eerie silence wrapped around him once again. The seller's farmhouse, ramshackle and worn, looked swallowed by time, its windows dark and strangely watchful. The air hung heavy with secrets. Inside, the struggling family seemed weighed down not just by debt, but by shadows from a past no one spoke of. Eyes flickered toward James, wary and guarded. Lips tightened, as if holding back storms. They talked little about the horse, but when it stepped into the yard, its head held high, a strange tension thickened the air. Like the horse carried something unsaid on its powerful shoulders. James watched the boy, the youngest of the family, brushing the horse's mane with trembling hands. A flicker of hope blinked in the child's eyes, but the faintest flicker of fear drifted across the mother's face. What had this horse meant to them? What old wounds did it stir? As James thought of using his wealth to save them, a sudden bitterness cracked through the stillness. Whispers spread. Old rivalries between James's family and this one. Bitter grudges that hadn't faded with time. Neighbors exchanged grim looks, murmurs curling like smoke through the chilly breeze. That rustled worn fences and cracked wood. James felt his chest tighten, the cold air biting deeper. Was this his chance for redemption, or a trap woven by the past? The horse snorted softly beside him, the sound a jolt in the quiet, alive, wild, and carrying secrets deep as the soil. Now, standing before the auction house, where the bidding was about to begin, James's heart pounded like thunder in a silent storm. The crowd hummed with restless energy, bright eyes searching, whispers swirling. Would this choice save what little hope remained, or shatter it all? The true secret of the horse was still veiled in darkness, and James was about to step into a story that might change everything. Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important alert. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And since you're here, drop that powerful like. That helps me so much with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media don't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now. The auction house buzzed, electric and tense. James's fists clenched tight around the worn leather reins he brought just in case. The crowd shifted, murmurs curling like smoke through the stale air. Faces blended into a blur, eyes darting, waiting for the bidding to begin. Heart pounding, James stared at the horse, sleek, untamed, the midnight coat catching the bare overhead lights like dark water. It felt like the whole room held its breath. Then, before the auctioneer even cleared his throat, an abrupt, sharp crack shattered the quiet. A gunshot. Heads jerked. Eyes widened in horror. The room froze for a raw, terrible second. Then pandemonium spilled loose, footsteps slamming against the wooden floor, people shouting, some screaming. James dropped to instinct, lunging forward, past gasps and shoves. At the center, the horse reared, nostrils flaring, wild terror reflected in its dark eyes. But it was the figure on the floor that made James's blood run ice cold. The boy, the youngest son of the family. He lay crumpled, still, a dark, spreading stain blossoming on his shirt. Blood slick and thick, pooling beneath him. The raw scent filling the room, metallic and cold. James's breath caught, throat tight, heart thudding so loud it nearly drowned out the chaos. Call an ambulance. Someone screamed, but the panic was thick, tangled with whispers already slicing through the shock. James dropped beside the boy, his hands trembling as he pressed against the wound, trying to slow the dark tide leaking from the broken body. The boy's eyes fluttered open, unfocused, and then locked on James with a flicker of pain and something else, a last haunting plea. "Mr. Carter, don't trust them," the child gasped, voice cracking like fragile glass. The room gasped in response, but James's chest tightened further. Who was he warning? Who were they? Then, in the shadowed corner near the Sellers family, a woman, his wife, the boy's mother, stood frozen, eyes wide with a terrible secret. Her lips trembled, and tears slipped down her worn cheeks. But her gaze was icy, her jaw tight. James lifted his eyes toward the farmhouse, dread pooling deep in his gut. There, in the dusty window, a silhouette shifted. A tall figure, unmoving, watching every broken moment. A man, unfamiliar, yet hauntingly familiar to James. One that brought a bitter sting to his memory. It hit him like a blade. This wasn't just a family in debt. This was a vendetta. A feud buried under years of silence. Betrayal carved sharp beneath the surface. The boy's warning echoed like a ghost. Don't trust them. But what did that mean? Whose side was anyone on? Sirens wailed in the distance as the crowd parted. People whispered names and half-truths, eyes dark with suspicion and buried grudges. James's body trembled, a knot twisting low in his chest. The horse snorted beside him, restless, as if sensing the blood that stained the ground was more than just the boy's. Like the horse carried the weight of all this pain, all these secrets, secrets that could shatter everything James thought he knew. And just as the paramedics rushed forward, the woman stepped closer, voice breaking cold through the chaos. It was his family, the Carters, she said, voice sharp, eyes full of bitter fire. That boy, he wasn't one of us. The world tilted. James's mind caught fire. Who was the boy then? And why had the horse, this strange, beautiful horse, meant so much more than anyone had ever said? The room spiraled out of control. The auction forgotten. The horse restless. The truth trembling on the edge, just out of reach. James stared down at the boy's fading breath, dread clawing through his veins. What had he really stumbled into? And would he survive the answer? The night stretched cold and endless. The story was only beginning. The sirens drew closer, a sharp wail that sliced through the thick fog of panic. James's hands shook as he pressed harder against the boy's wound. His breath ragged, lungs begging for air. The boy's eyes fluttered again, weak, desperate. A flicker of pain mixed with something raw. A truth unspoken. Don't trust, the boy gasped, voice barely more than a whisper. Every word a shattered plea. James's heart slammed against his ribs. His mind slammed too, trying to grasp the meaning. But before he could lean closer, a shrill scream ripped through the chaos. It came from the woman, the boy's mother, frozen before, now frantic. Her face twisted, a mask of horror and rage. "Stop! No one touch him!" she cried, her voice breaking like brittle glass. Eyes jerked toward her, confusion rippling. Through the crowd, paramedics hesitated, unsure. Then it happened. Sudden, brutal. The woman's hand darted inside her coat, fingers curling around the cold steel of a pistol. Gasps exploded like thunder. People scattered, panic doubling, screams rising sharp and wild. James stared, frozen, disbelief crashing in. "Get away!" the woman barked, pointing the weapon with shaking hands. Her eyes burned. Madness, grief, hate all tangled in one impossible glare. "Why?" James croaked. Voice cracking. His chest tightened, breath caught in a knot. Her voice dropped low, venom lacing every syllable. "Because that boy wasn't my son." Breath left James in a burst of shock. "What?" She laughed, hollow, sharp, and tears streaked her dirt-streaked face. "He was stolen from us years ago. You and your family don't know what you buried." The room spun. Whispers boiled into chaos, heart pounding. James's eyes locked on the fading pulse beneath him. The boy. Suddenly, the boy's body convulsed. His eyes snapped open wide, fierce and wild. "No!" a voice screamed nearby. He's alive!" But the look in those eyes wasn't pleading. It was a warning, cold, deadly. And then the boy's hand shot out, straight, fast, and grabbed James's wrist. It was ice, smooth. From mine, a murmur spread like wildfire, faces twisted in disbelief. The woman lowered the gun slowly, eyes never leaving James. You think this horse was just a prize, that it's only for sale? The horse shifted, restless, muscles coiling like a spring about to snap. No, her voice cracked with a bitter smile. It's a key to the truth buried beneath all our lies. James's mind reeled. Betrayal, hatred, decades of silence, all flooding in one rushed wave. He glanced at the shadow in the window again. The man, tall and still, watching. His breath caught cold. "Who is he?" James demanded, voice trembling. The woman's smile twisted darker. "Your real enemy, the one pulling every string." And then, a sudden crash. The auction house door flew open. Two men stormed in, faces grim and angry. They stopped dead seeing the gun. One stepped forward. His voice was ice. "End this now, Mary," he warned. "You don't know what you're doing." Mary shook her head, tears mixing with dirt. "I know exactly what I'm doing." James stood, heart pounding a frantic drum. "This family," Mary spat, eyes fierce. "This horse, none of it's what you think. And if you want to survive, you've got to stop trusting the past." James's throat tightened. He looked down at the boy, still gripping his wrist, eyes burning with secrets he wasn't ready to share. And just before the silence snapped again, the horse whinnied sharply, nostrils flaring, body tense as if sensing the truth could explode at any moment. The room waited, but the real question hanging heavy in the air was clear. Who was pulling the strings all along? And what price would James pay for finding out? The room tensed like a wire about to snap. The boy's grip burned cold on James's wrist, icy steel slicing through the frantic heat pounding in his veins. Mary's gun. Hand shook, fingers tight on the trigger, eyes blazing with a wild, broken fire. The strangers standing at the door froze in place, breaths caught sharp in their throats. And then, a sudden thud, heavy and unexpected, echoed through the auction house. All heads whipped toward the back entrance as the door slammed open once again. A figure staggered inside, dripping wet and shaking. A man, barely recognizable. James's heart slammed into silence. It was his father, but not the man James knew. The cold, controlling patriarch who haunted his family dinners and boardrooms. This man was different. Face raw and bruised, eyes wild, a long cut opening at his temple. He shook off rain, grit, and something darker as he stared across the room. "Stop this!" His voice, hoarse and ragged, tore through the chaos. Mary's gun lowered, trembling. The boy's grip relaxed, but his eyes never left James. James swallowed the lump rising in his throat, confusion and dread swirling sharp inside. "What are you doing here?" James demanded, voice tight, beaten. The old man staggered forward, breath ragged, like a storm breaking. "I've been looking for you all these years." Whispers rippled like a sudden wind. Faces twisted. Murmurs rose. Suddenly, the man's gaze fixed on the boy sprawled on the floor. His chest heaved. "That boy," he said slowly, voice breaking. "He's my grandson." The room dropped. A silent, deadly weight swallowed the crowded space. James blinked, heart twisting painfully. Mary's face crumbled, tears slipping like knives. "Your son took him from us," she whispered, voice brittle and raw. "We've been trying to get him back for years." James's breath caught. The boy looked at him, not like a stranger, but a puzzle piece that didn't fit. "You never told me," James said, voice trembling. The old man shook his head, bitter and broken. "I was forced away. They told me you didn't want him. You, James, you gave him up." A laugh escaped Mary, hollow, bitter. "You have no idea what your family did." James stared, numb. The boy's eyes searched his, questioning, desperate. Then, the boy gasped, body convulsing in pain and fury. "No," he rasped, voice sharper now. "I'm not the victim here." The horse whinnied, stamping restlessly, muscles coiled. Suddenly, the boy's hand shot up, and with a flash, a small glint caught the light. A knife. James's chest froze, heart sinking as the boy lurched toward Mary. "No!" Mary screamed, stepping back, gun forgotten. The knife plunged into her side. She gasped, staggering, eyes wide with shock and something almost relieved. Blood blossomed bright, soaking into her dirty shirt. The old man lunged, catching her before she collapsed. "Why?" James choked, pain curling tight. Mary's lips trembled. "Because I had to protect him from you." Silence shattered the room in brutal shards. James's mind spiraled, the pieces he thought he knew smashing into 1,000 jagged questions. Who was the real enemy? Who had betrayed whom? And most painfully, who could he trust now? Outside, the rain hammered the ground, relentless and cold. The horse pawed the floor, eyes wild and dark as night, and James felt it deep inside, a truth darker than the storm. Something inside this family wasn't broken. It was rotten. And the nightmare was far from over. The room spun. Mary collapsed against James's father, her breath ragged, blood seeping through trembling fingers. James's heart slammed so hard it felt like it wanted to break his ribs. Everything shattered around him. Trust, family, truth, all crumbling like dry dirt beneath storm feet. The horse stamped again, loud and wild, nostrils flaring as if it could smell the sickness clinging to the air. Then, suddenly, the lights flickered. The murmurs stuttered. And in the pause that followed, a sharp, chilling voice sliced through the chaos like a cold wind. "You all forgot something very important." Heads whipped toward the back of the auction house. There, framed by the cracked door, stood a woman. Not any woman. A stranger to some, but not to James. Sharp eyes, tight smile, clothes dusty but neat. It was his sister, Anna. The sister he thought was dead. James's blood turned to ice. Anna? The sister who vanished after an argument so fierce it broke the family? The sister no one spoke of? "She's alive?" someone whispered. Voices tangled in confusion and shock. Anna's lips curled into a bitter grin. "Alive, yes." Her eyes locked on James. "And I know every lie. Every secret you're trying to hide." The crowd shifted uneasily. The boy on the floor, bleeding and pale, made a weak noise, but it was Anna's words that crushed the room. "She wasn't stolen from you," Anna said, stepping forward, voice low but carrying like thunder. "She was hidden, protected, because what your family did, it wasn't about taking a boy away. It was about burying the truth." James swallowed hard, chest tightening like a vice. His father's knuckles whitened. Mary's eyes watered, her breath catching like she was drowning. "What truth?" James choked, voice barely a whisper. Anna paused. Then she lunged, her hand darting into her coat. But this time, it wasn't a gun. It was a small, crumpled photo. She tore it open and held it high. The crowd leaned in. The picture showed a young girl, barely older than the boy on the floor, smiling softly. But there was something else. Someone else. A man with James's face, but eyes colder. The caption scrawled underneath made everyone freeze. "James Carter, adopted." Silence fell like a stone. James stared, heart plunging. "Adopted?" Anna's smile twisted cruel. "You never belonged." "Not really. Your family took you in. But the bloodline, it wasn't theirs. They hid what you were, what you are." Mary gasped, clutching at her side, staggering as if the world was cracking beneath her. James's father shook his head violently. "No, that's not true. You're lying." But Anna's voice didn't waver. "The boy," she said, pointing to the floor where the boy now struggled to sit upright, eyes burning fierce and alive. "He's the Carter blood. The real heir. Not you, James." The boy's hand shot out again, gripping Anna's arm, strong, steady. "Listen to me," he said, voice steady now, cold. "I am what you fear, because I know what you hide." James felt like the world was fracturing beneath him. Every piece he'd held onto since childhood turned to dust. The horse whinnied, nerves raw, as if joining the silent scream building in James's chest. Anna stepped closer, voice like steel. "You were raised to believe a lie. Your family's empire built on stolen lives and buried names." James's breath caught. Tears threatened, but he blinked them back. "Then who am I?" Before Anna could answer, the auction house door slammed open again. A man stepped in, young, sharp, someone James recognized from the edge of memories. A stranger that felt like sickness. He raised a hand, pressing it to his chest. "James, I'm your brother too, the one you never knew existed." The room exploded into whispers and gasps. James staggered back, confusion and rage crashing like waves. His world wasn't just broken. It was something else entirely. Who was he? And what had this family built their lives on? The horse pawed the dirt nervously. Outside, rain pounded like a drum. And inside, James's heart shattered in 1,000 directions. The real nightmare, the real story was only beginning. The room went dead silent after the stranger's words. James's legs felt weak, like they might fold under him at any moment. His breath stuck in his chest. His heart hammered loud enough to drown the whispers, swirling like smoke. The horse shifted uneasily, nostrils flaring. Then, without warning, everything shattered. A sharp, sickening crack ripped through the air. The auction house's overhead lights flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. Groans and startled cries broke loose, people stumbling, panicked whispers skyrocketing. James's hands shot out, grabbing the arm of the man who called himself his brother. A voice yelled, "Who the hell?" But the dark was thick, heavy, almost alive. Suddenly, a splintering crash from the far end. Glass shattering, wood splintering. Then, lightning fast, a piercing scream pulled everyone's heads toward the door. A shadow lurched in. James's heart dropped like a stone. It was the boy. But not the boy he'd seen struggling moments before. This was something else. Pale, wild-eyed face, streaked with dirt and dried blood, his breathing harsh, unsteady. He collapsed through the open door and into the stunned crowd. James lunged forward, trembling hands reaching. The boy's eyes locked on James. Empty, hollow. Then he laughed. A low, eerie sound that scraped through the auction house. Nothing human, nothing childlike. "I'm not who you think." His voice cracked and twisted inside the dark. "Not your blood, not your kin." James reeled, as if punched in the gut. The boy's hand slipped into his coat, slow, deliberate. Everyone gasped, backing away. A cold glimmer flashed. A badge. The boy pulled it free. A sheriff's badge, worn and bent. "Agent." "Kyle Harrow," he said, voice sharp as glass. James staggered back. This was a setup. Murmurs exploded, confusion mingling with shock and anger. Mary's eyes blazed. "What are you talking about?" Kyle smiled, a bitter, broken thing, and pointed at James. "You belong to a family built on lies, James. But my job, my real job, was to bring the whole truth to light." The crowd gasped again, but James's mind was spinning. Kyle's stare sharpened, angry and cold. "Your family's empire. Drug runners, smugglers, a network masked behind ranches and auctions." The room faltered. James's father barked, "Lies! You're mad." Kyle shook his head. "No, sir, I have proof. Papers, recordings, deals made in shadows you don't want to see." James clenched his fists, jaw tight. "You don't get to rewrite what I'm supposed to be." Kyle's smile cracked, eyes shining with pain. "I'm not here to hurt you, James. But if you want to save what's left of this family, you need to face the monster inside." The boy's bloodless face flickered with something else. Sadness? Hate? "Your sister, not the protector you think. She's in this too, all of you." Breath caught like a noose. James's legs trembled. Then Anna stepped forward, voice quiet but sharp. "This was the plan all along," she said. "To set us against each other. To keep the truth buried." The room spun. James's head throbbed. The horse whinnied once, long and low. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind Kyle. Locks clicked. No escape. Everyone froze. Kyle's last words cut like ice. "Now you'll find out what the Carter name really means, and how far they'll go to keep it hidden." Silence stretched tight and suffocating. James looked down at the boy. Bloodied, broken, but no longer just a victim. A storm had arrived, and it wasn't leaving without everything falling apart. The silence hung thick, heavy like the dark pressing in around them. The air tasted sharp, metal, sweat, fear, and every breath James drew felt like it scraped the inside of his chest raw. The locked doors loomed behind Kyle, cold and unyielding. Around them, faces twisted, shock fading to suspicion, confusion deepening to dread. Your boy, Agent Harrow, still sat on the floor, eyes fierce but haunted. James couldn't tear his gaze away, feeling that icy grip on his wrist like it might freeze his blood. Anna stepped forward. "You think this is the end?" she spat. "You're just scratching the surface." James swallowed hard, heart thudding so loud he felt it might burst through his ribs. His mind spun, grasping at threads that unraveled faster. The more he tried to hold on. Then, a sudden explosion of light. Not the flickering bulbs overhead, not lanterns or flashlights. It was a phone. Anna's, buzzing wildly in her trembling hand. The screen lit up again. An incoming call. Her eyes darted to the name. She froze. "No, it can't be," she whispered. The crowd leaned in, tension snapping like a taut wire. Anna's hands shook violently as she answered. The voice on the other end was low, rough, but deadly clear. "Anna, you lied." Her face paled so fast it looked like the light drained right through her. James's blood ran cold. Behind her, the boy shifted, watching. The voice continued, a bite of ice in every word. "You brought them here. You wanted it all to blow apart, but you forgot one thing." Anna's lips quivered, but she didn't speak. The voice went on. "The truth isn't yours to tell." The auction house seemed to breathe in, then out, a sharp, cold breath, full of menace. And then a noise at the back door, soft at first, but growing. Footsteps, heavy steps, slow, deliberate. Everyone turned. The tall shadow in the window, still watching earlier, moved into the room, stepping quietly, but with purpose. It wasn't just a man, it was him. James's breath caught so hard it nearly left him gasping. The man who haunted his memories, the one whose face twisted guilt and rage into the very air. His own father, but not the broken, bruised man who just barged in. This was different. Clean, sharp, deadly, calm. A smile curled across his lips, cold and empty. "I'm glad you're all here." The silence broke like glass. The crowd recoiled. Anna dropped the phone, the call cutting off mid-word. James's father's eyes locked on James. Then, with a quietness that made the room freeze, he took a step forward and the lights cut out. Total darkness. Voices gasped, feet shuffled. Then, a sharp, terrible sound. Like glass shattering. A stifled scream. James's hand went out, trying to find something, but found only cold air. Then light returned, flickering, unstable, and in the sudden glow stood a figure no one expected. The horse, but not calm. Its body was steaming in the cool air, muscles taut like steel cables, and across its dark coat, smeared with dirt and dust, was something bright and cruel. Blood. Not horse blood. Human. James's heart stopped cold. He looked down and saw a body lying behind the horse. A woman. Her face white, eyes half closed. It was Mary, gun still in hand, but twisted and useless. A soft, wet sound, barely a whisper. She's not your enemy anymore. James's head spun, helpless. The nightmare he thought he understood had shattered into shards too sharp to hold. The boy slid to his knees beside Mary, trembling. "Look closer," he said, voice breaking. James blinked, and then saw it. A small folded piece of paper clutched in Mary's hand. He pried it free and read, "James, you were never the outsider. You are the last piece, the real Carter. And the horse, it's the key to us all." The room sucked in breath. James felt the walls close in, the weight of 1,000 secrets crashing down. But the question punched harder. All this time, what side was Mary really on? And the boy, Kyle, looked up at James, eyes dark, but no longer a threat. Ready to find out who's been lying and who's been killing to keep it safe? James's heart hammered, because now nothing was certain. Not family, not truth, not even the horse. The storm wasn't just outside. It had just begun inside. And the price of the next move? No one was ready to pay. The silence was thick, like a weight pressing down on James's chest. The blood-soaked note curled in his fingers, trembling. The boy, Kyle, looked up at him, eyes sharp, raw with something like pain and warning tangled. The auction house felt too small now, suffocating. Every breath caught between shock and fear. Ready to find out who's been lying and who's been killing to keep it safe? Kyle's voice cracked. James's heart hammered. Fists clenched so tight his nails bit into his palms. But then, a noise. A soft scrape. A shuffle behind the crowd. All heads turned. From the dark corner where shadows pooled, a figure stepped forward. Slow, measured. It was Anna. She looked different. The bitterness in her eyes was gone, replaced by something colder, harder. She smiled, but it was the kind of smile that chills your bones. "Not so fast, boys," she said. Every person in the room frozen, waiting. Then Anna dropped something on the floor with a sharp clatter. A gun. The crowd gasped. James's throat tightened, his breath hitching. He stared at her. "Anna, what are you?" Her smile stretched wider. "What? You thought I came to save you? To expose the truth?" Her body shifted, calm but deadly. "No, I came to bury it forever." Time slowed. James's eyes flicked to the horse, restless. Muscles coiled like a spring about to snap. Then Anna's hand shot out. Fast as lightning, she snatched the gun from the floor. The crowd screamed. But before anyone could react, before Kyle could move, Anna fired. The shot rang out, cutting through the gasps and shouts. A high, piercing sound, but no one hit the floor. Instead, James's father staggered, clutching his chest. A slow, ugly red bloomed across his shirt. Shock slammed through James, icy and sharp. His father's face twisted. Pain, confusion, betrayal, all crashing through seconds like a storm. His breath rattled, shallow, desperate. And then he collapsed. The room erupted into chaos. Mary screamed, clutching at her side. Kyle leapt forward, but James grabbed his arm. "We're not done," James hissed, heart pounding like a war drum. But Anna was already moving, eyes wild and fierce. "Don't think this ends here." Her voice cracked, raw and broken. A sudden truth hit James like a hammer. Anna wasn't just a sister lost to the past. She was a ghost, a breaker, the real storm buried beneath all the lies. Then the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness again. A scream echoed, this time from the horse. The magnificent creature reared, wild and terrified, eyes wide and wild as thunder rolled outside. And as the blackness pressed in, when the lights flickered back, something else was wrong. Kyle was gone. No sign, no trace, only a dark smear on the floor where he'd sat. A sliding piece of paper caught in the moonlight. James bent and grabbed it, hands trembling. It read, in messy scrawl, "You don't know what you're fighting. The truth isn't blood or family. It's something worse, and I'm the last to stop it." James's chest tightened, breath shallow. The room watched him, eyes wide, waiting. But inside, he knew one thing for sure. The nightmare wasn't just about secrets or lies. It was about the darkness inside them all. And whatever was coming next, it would change everything. Forever. The paper trembled in James's hand, the words smudged by his shaking fingers. The room felt colder now, like the last breath of night slipping away with the dawn. Faces blurred, Mary's bloodied form still lying too still. Anna's cold smile fading into something darker. The echo of Kyle's warning hanging thick like smoke. James's chest burned with a harsh tightness. His heart pounded, fast and wild. Then the silence broke. A sudden, wet sound. A soft, sucking noise, so faint it seemed unreal. All eyes swiveled toward the horse. It stood strangely still, muscles coiled, ears twitching, then bent low. Its dark muzzle touched the blood on the floor. James felt a lump rise in his throat. But the next moment snapped everything. The horse's head jerked upward, and from its mouth, thin, pale, trembling, escaped a small crumpled envelope. It slipped and fluttered onto the floor like a fallen leaf. James bent and picked it up. His breath hitched, chest tightening harder than before. The note inside was covered in tight, looping handwriting. Look where it all began. Nothing else. No name, no sign. The room held its breath, waiting. But before James could speak, the lights flickered again, then exploded into full blaze. The harsh brightness unveiled a new horror. Behind the horse, half hidden in shadows, lay another body. A man, familiar. James stumbled back, heart pounding, raw terror. It was Kyle. Agent Kyle Harrow. His eyes were wide open, staring blankly, glassy and dead. A long, jagged slash ran across his throat, slick and dark. The room gasped. Mary's sobbed ragged. Anna's face paled into a mask of startled fury. But then, something even worse. James's father stepped forward, voice cold and steady, slicing through the stunned silence. "This is the truth you've missed all along," he said. Everyone's gaze snapped to him. James's breath hitched. His father's eyes were deadly calm, but his smile was a razor. You think Kyle was your enemy? He was a pawn, a tool, and now he's silenced for good. James's blood ran cold. What do you mean? He whispered, throat tight as wire. His father's gaze locked on James. The empire we built was never for sale. Not to outsiders, not to feds. He stepped closer, voice dropping low. Kyle was the weak, the traitor. The one who wanted to bring down everything we fought for. And you, he pointed, jagged finger trembling with bitter hate. You almost fell for it. James's knees shook, faces turned, murmurs swelling like a wave crashing against cliffs. Mary's breath hitched. Her eyes locked on James's father, like he was a ghost from a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Anna's smile snapped, sharp as a blade. No one trusts you anymore, Dad, she hissed. But before the argument could ignite, a new sound tore through the room. Distant sirens, closer now, screaming, and then a loud crack, a gunshot. Everyone froze. James's head whipped to the side. The youngest boy, the one who'd stabbed Mary, was standing by the shattered window, bloodied knife clenched tight. Wait, James gasped. What are you? The boy's eyes darkened, wild and empty. I'm not your enemy, he said, voice low and jagged. But the real battle? It's just starting. Suddenly, he flicked his wrist and tossed something onto the floor. Another envelope, soaked with rain and dust. James bent slowly, dread coiling tight. Inside was a photo, but this wasn't a family picture. It was a black and white shot of a younger James, smiling, innocent. But behind him, a man tied up in chains. No stranger. It was James's own father. And underneath, scrawled in angry ink, 3 words: Betrayal runs blood. The room fell into a suffocating silence. James's heart dropped, tumbled like a stone down a deep well. His father, once the unshakable king of this twisted empire, was the true prisoner. And everything James believed cracked under the weight of a new, brutal truth. The mastermind behind the nightmare wasn't his father or anyone there. It was someone far darker, someone closer than he ever dared to imagine. James looked up, eyes desperate, voice barely a whisper. Who's really pulling the strings? No one answered. Outside, the wind howled. The storm wasn't over. It had just changed faces. The air was thick with cold sweat and fear. James's hands trembled as he stared down at the shattered pieces of his life spread across the auction house floor. Kyle's lifeless body, Mary gasping through blood-soaked clothes, Anna's wild eyes flashing madness, and his father, wounded yet still standing, painted a nightmare he couldn't wake from. The truth wasn't in the papers or the photos. It was in the betrayal, the pain, the poison running through their veins. The horse stamped nervously, nostrils flaring, sensing the storm inside these walls. And James felt it too, deep and raw, a wound that was more than family drama. It was a battle for everything he thought he was. He knelt beside Mary, her breath ragged but still there. Her eyes met his, full of sorrow and something like regret. "I didn't want this," she whispered, voice breaking like cracked glass. "But the secrets, they nearly killed us all." Anna's voice snapped through the tension. "You don't get to play the hero, James. Not when your family built. It's thrown on lies and scars." James's chest tightened. "Then who is the real enemy? Who's been hiding in the shadows, pulling our strings?" Silence answered him, thick as fog. From the cracked door, a low rumble rolled in, the distant sirens inching closer. Relief whispered, but didn't settle. His father coughed, blood trickling down his chin. "The strings were tangled by us all," he rasped. "Enemies weren't always outside. We made our own hell." James swallowed hard, heart pounding uneven. He looked at the young boy, the one who stabbed Mary, standing rigid, eyes wild but clear now. "Why?" James's voice cracked. "Why all this?" The boy's gaze hardened. "Because the truth was never meant to be free. We fought for it. We died for it. And some would kill to keep it buried." The horse neighed sharply, like a call to arms, muscles rippling under moonlight, slicing through broken windows. James stood, chest raw, breath short. His family, fractured, bleeding, was locked in a war they hardly understood. But a flicker deep inside told him this wasn't the end. It was a beginning, a new fight, one that didn't just belong to blood or title, one that belonged to the scars they could still choose to heal or destroy. Outside, the storm raged on, lightning tearing the sky. Apart. Inside, James clenched his fists and looked at the horizon of shattered trust. Who would be left standing when the truth finally came for them all? The night hadn't ended. It had only just found its voice. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss the secrets coming next. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now. Feed the algorithm and flood the comments with what you think about this ending. Theories, reactions, tell us everything. And don't wait another second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see how this battle unravels. Only real fans understand how important it is to back the channel with these moves. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, the hidden stories of the richest owners, and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal, check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now. You need to watch this now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait another second to share.